For over a century, psychoanalysis and attachment theory have described the structures of the psyche in terms of drives, objects, and ego positions. We have had Freud's id, ego, superego, Klein's paranoid, schizoid, and depressive positions, Furban's libidinal and anti-libidinal egos, and Winnicott's holding environment. But these have always been descriptions of states, objects, or functions, not a single structural mechanism that regulates them all. Through input, we now see what sits beneath these models. A relationally tuned gate that coordinates access to selfhood, memory, and affect across every level of the human experience. This is the organising gate, the central holding architecture of the psyche. The gate's origins, the infant's annihilatory stress response. The organising gate is born in the first months of life as the annihilatory stress response, the ASR core, the pre-verbal somatic reflex that keeps the infant alive during moments of catastrophic rupture. It floods the body with activation, bracing against non-being. It's not cognitive, it is pure right brain survival code. It is the first container that holds the baby together until the mother's gaze or touch returns. When attunement is good enough, this reflex grows into a flexible anticipatory brace, something that can prepare for rupture without taking over the whole system. This is the basis for trust, play, and the eventual capacity to enter the depressive position. The gate as adult regulatory membrane. In adulthood, the same reflex has evolved into what we call the Anticipatory Shadow Reflex, the ASR, the living membrane of the organising gate. It is not passive, it is active and dynamic. It anticipates rupture by continuously scanning the relational field, bridges continuity between pre-verbal imprinting, unconscious contents, and conscious narrative self, modulates access to emotion, memory, and private behavior so that the self can remain coherent across time. In a healthy system, this gate is permeable and responsive, opening just enough to let pre-verbal material, unconscious drives, and affect flow through without flooding the conscious self. When the gate is hypertrophied, early misattunement or trauma causes the gate to swell and overfunction. It becomes a rigid brace rather than a flexible valve. It holds too much psychic weight, empathy, object constancy, internalized shame regulation, effectively doing the work of a parent that was never fully present. The entire self becomes organized around anticipation, scanning, bracing, preventing rupture at all costs. This hypertrophy explains why survivors often appear hyper empathic, over functioning, or addicted to repair. Their gate is doing too much, holding too much, and defining too much of the self. The gate in collapse, CIPR, collapse induced psychotic regression. When the narcissist gaze collapses, or any massive relational rupture occurs, the hypertrophied gate finally fails. Pre-verbal terror floods up, the annihilatory stress response reactivates in full. Unconscious content surge into awareness, sometimes as intrusive imagery, compulsions, or panic. The narrative self disintegrates. I don't know who I am anymore. Private behaviors explode indivisibility, risk taking, rage, disassociation, because the system that normally contains them has gone offline. This is why collapse feels like ego death. The very thing that was holding the self together, the organizing gate, is no longer functioning. The gate's relationship to the depressive position. Here is MPID's key insight. The organizing gate is not the depressive position, but it is the precondition for reaching it. When right sized, the gate allows the psyche to tolerate ambivalence, anxiety, and fear long enough to integrate good and bad objects into a whole. When hypertrophied, it blocks this integration, keeping the person in a constant orbit of the paranoid schizoid position, never fully trusting that the good object will remain, never fully daring to grieve its absence. Empathy, constancy, and the gate. Survivors often cling to empathy, even inverted or compulsive empathy, because it is their last tether to the depressive position. Empathy keeps the relational world alive. Empathy allows the survivor to hope that wholeness can be restored. Empathy is not a weakness, it is the gate's attempt to keep integration possible. Right sizing the gate. The path of reintegration. Recovery is not about turning the gate off, it's about returning it to its natural, flexible rhythm. Somatic work, calming the body so the brace can soften, titration of pre-verbal memory, letting early wounds surface in doses the psyche can metabolize, narrative and reauthoring, reclaiming the story of the self from the narcissistic or traumatic gaze, ambivalence training, practicing holding good and bad together until it no longer feels annihilatory. When the organizing gate is right sized, pre-verbal terror can be felt but does not overwhelm. The unconscious becomes a source of creativity rather than chaos. Narrative self becomes authored from within rather than imposed from without. The depressive position becomes accessible, not as a fleeting achievement, but as a stable state. The organizing gate as the psyche central principle. Taken together, these insights reveal the organizing gate as more than a metaphor. It is the central holding architecture that keeps the psyche's coherent access across time, rupture, and change. It explains why collapse feels annihilatory, the gate failed. It explains why recovery is possible, the gate can be restored. It explains why empathy and object constancy are so fragile under stress. The gate is carrying their weight. MPIT proposes that the organizing gate is the psyche's true central organizing principle, the mechanism that decides whether we remain whole or fragment, whether we move forward toward integration or fall back into terror. Peace out. Loads of love.